Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the brand new Caldera Intel series. I'm Grandmaster Gojj, and in this series, I'm going to be breaking down all the major POIs on this map. And there's 15 total regional POIs. This is the larger overarching areas. The first one we're going to be talking about today is Capital. A lot of people thought this was going to be the hottest drop in Caldera, and I'm not so sure. So we're going to break down my favorite drop spot, my least favorite drop spot, and then the overarching kind of layout and my favorite rotation through Capital. So let's jump straight into the action and get started. Before I jump into this really quickly, if you don't mind liking this video and subscribing to the channel if so far you've enjoyed it, I am really trying to grow this brand new long form channel, and I think it's going to be extremely beneficial to you guys, especially as you're trying to get better at Warzone, specifically Warzone Pacific. First and foremost, you're going to be driving through Capital kind of in this new Jeep if you're playing the Vanguard only mode, and there's a lot of different buildings around that can get extremely confusing. Again, this is what a lot of people think of as like the downtown of Caldera, that the downtown from Verdansk, and there is some similarities with the density of the amount of buildings in that area, but at the same time, there's no 18-story buildings, and there's really no 18-story buildings all across the map. Nothing even close. The tallest buildings on this map, I think, are maybe 5-6 stories at the most if you're over on the airways and on the ATC tower over there. But in Capital itself, there is one massive building, and let's start by talking about the Capitol building first, okay? The Capitol building is one of the largest buildings on the map, and certainly the largest building in the Capital region. A lot of people think it's the best place to drop. I have certainly found that, yes, there is almost always a buy station right on the backside of the Capitol, and it kind of faces what I like to call the ruins area behind the Capitol that leads you up on top of the mountain, which isn't a bad spot. But I have certainly found that the Capitol building itself has really bad loot, and I'll show you some of the gameplay in Capitol and just kind of watch as I rotate through. It's not like I've tested this one time. I've only dropped Capitol about 25 times since launch to record this video, and the Capitol building really never yielded any sort of large success. The one thing I have often found there is 1 max 2 orange boxes, which give you the satchel and a little bit more money, but I've really never come out of a Capitol building, especially with a full squad of 4 landing there with even really like 10 grand. I mean, I looted an entire Capitol building by myself and ended up with about $5,600 one time. So I don't like this spot too often, but I will say, especially for the first couple weeks of Caldera, it will be the hottest drop in this Capital area. So what I'm going to talk about is actually my favorite drop spot. So my favorite drop spot and my favorite rotation in Capital are actually some of the buildings outside of the main Capital. They are called the Courtroom Building, the Financial Center, and then what I call the Villa, which is directly next to the Capital. You can see it as I fly in, the green pink building with the red roof. This is the courtroom. Now, there are some doors on the outside that you can't enter into, but I came in through the window. I usually come in through the side and through the window. I always find guns and loot in the courtroom. Specifically, that second floor is a massive boon. You're going to find loot like money, C4s, all of that good stuff, but it's also great to fight people in because there's a lot of outplay potential here. You've got high ground that you can shoot down onto the main courtroom. You have this outside balcony that has loot that you can jump back in, and then, of course, you have the bottom floor if you want to make plays from down there. This is a great building to drop on, and I like dropping onto this building while one of my teammates drops onto the next building, which is the Financial Center, which you're going to see me rotate to next. If your teammates don't drop with you, I like going from the courtroom to the Financial Building like I'm doing right here. You have this cheeky little jump spot on top of the lion statue to get straight into the second floor. And even though my teammate looted most of this, I still end up finding a decent bit of loot in here, deployable covers, equipment, money, etc. And once I've cleared the Financial Center, which again usually kind of fulfills its name, there's usually a lot of money around here. My teammate and I have cleared this building. I am now going to clear across the street to what I like to call the Villa. Now, the Villa is this kind of 2 buildings next to each other connected by a walkway. I call it the Villa because it's like I don't know, it's like a white villa. It just looks like somebody's like really rich's house next to the Capitol building. This could theoretically be like the governor's house or whatever, right? You can see it in front of you now. And I really like this building. Again, a lot of outplay potential here, a lot of different entries and exits on this building, a lot of loot here as well. I usually find more loot in those 3 buildings that I can clear through and rotate through in 60 seconds or so than the entire Capitol building combined. And the Capitol building is a slower loot pattern because there's so many different floors and angles and different places you get shot from, etc. So here in the Villa, I'll clear one side and actually find an enemy down on the bottom floor of the other side of this Villa that is connected by a bottom and top walkway. There is there's a roof to play around with. I had some okay ground loot, I believe. I'm using this AS-44. We'll finish up this kill, no problem. It's a very close range gun, by the way. Do not try to use this gun at long range. It is terrible. The ground loot this season is fine. It's not my favorite, but a lot of visual recoil on a lot of these Vanguard guns. But anyways, clean up this kill, and I'm going to finish up cleaning up and looting up this bottom villa area. There's a couple different spots you can check. You've got the whole bottom floor of both buildings as well as the top floor, and we can kind of fast forward through some of this as I go and help out my teammates next door in Capital. So this is my usual rotation. I drop courtroom, I then go to the financial center, and then I rotate across the street to villas. Not only is that a great loot pattern and I find a good bit of money, but also this is a great way to engage in a lot of the fights that happen near Capital without dropping on Capital. Because again, Capital loot, not great. And I'm going to show you on the other video that I have what it looked like when I was looting Capital. There were so many different sight lines where I had 60 yards to run down a hallway and there was no loot anywhere. The rooftops are almost always barren. There's like a few guns here or there, like 2 chests, and the roof is massive. It's extremely odd. It's not like the top of Superstore or like even really the top of Train Station, although the building kind of reminds me of Train Station. Capital itself, a very interesting building. You have this kind of multi-tiered building with large open corridors and long hallways, but it also has a rooftop that people can drop on and get up to via ladders and zip lines, as well as kind of a second rooftop that goes a bit higher that you can climb up to. This is the clock tower of the Capitol, or you can call it that if you would want. There's usually loot in there. I've oftentimes found one orange box, which sometimes makes that drop worth it, but overall, I like my other rotation better. So Capitol building, interesting one. Not my favorite drop spot. Be careful dropping there because it can be a little hot while also not giving you a lot of loot. So in my opinion, it's not going to be hot in about a week from now. People have just kind of made this assumption that because there's so many buildings in the Capital region that this is the hottest drop. I would argue in an overall sense that Capital itself is not even a hot drop at all. It doesn't make a lot of sense to drop into because there's so many buildings that it's kind of like if you dropped ground floor of a building in downtown. It's like, yeah, Nakatomi Plaza was great and oftentimes had a lot of loot, but Nakatomi Plaza here, which is Capital, doesn't have a lot of loot. So kind of a bit of an odd drop to deal with, because there's so many different angles you can get shot from if you're trying to navigate through Capital. But if you use the rotation I use, it usually keeps you kind of in the heat of everything, kind of in the heat of battle. You find good loot, you can get a lot of money up, and then buy that first loadout after maybe the free one drops. Again, that is a new change to this game. If you guys didn't know, that you can't buy a loadout until the end of the first circle. Not as the first circle starts moving, the end of the first circle, which is when your free loadout drops. So definitely a different game, slows your pace quite a bit. But with this rotation, you should be able to pick up a few kills, and we usually walk out with this rotation somewhere around 20k because you're not spending it as much. And again, as a reminder, UAVs were also increased in price to $6,000. So hey, maybe use that hard-earned cash that you use from the courtroom to the financial center over to the villa rotation and buy some UAVs to help you out in a lot of those fights in that Capital area. Because again, it can be very dicey if you don't know where people are. Now, there's a lot of other buildings in Capital, and I want you to go explore it for yourself. I'm not doing a full walkthrough tour because it seems a bit redundant, especially the south side of Capital is just about worthless. I mean, if you're trying to regain or something like that and not looking for a lot of people, just about any circle that I found, whether it was a hotter drop or not, that south side of Capital is almost always free and always has loot. So go check it out. Not great loot, but it'll have some loot and could be an ability to go loot up and get enough money to buy back your teammates maybe, because a lot of it hasn't been touched. There's some cool buildings down there like a theater, and then there's the jailhouse, and I saw a lot of different shops and things like that. I really like the way they built out these buildings. There are a lot of fun jump spots and onto balconies and a lot of really, I would say, diligent map design with the way the buildings were actually designed, which I really enjoyed. But again, that south side, don't really need to touch it. I really focus on that hotter drop area in my favorite rotation area that I showed you earlier with the courtroom, etc. So go check out those areas. Tell me what your favorite buildings are, certainly in Capital. If I missed something that you really like, let me know, because I'm always looking for new spots in Capital. And hey, I'm doing a video like this for every single regional POI on the map. Again, there are 15 of them, and I'm going to get more and more intensive, specifically with POIs that I think will make it into the pro scene. I'm also going to be making a lot of videos on where the pros like to drop and showcasing their perspectives, as well as I am a professional shoutcaster. Make sure you like and subscribe to the video. I'm looking forward to growing this channel. My shorts channel and where I would post my old long form was doing really well, but I really wanted to make a specific channel for you guys for this type of content. So again, if you like it, let me know down below. Let me know what your next kind of favorite POI is down in the comments, and maybe I'll do that one next. See you guys in the next video.